Hi, it's Mike, the Erudite DM, and I want to spend a few minutes with you talking about age. And I don't mean how we age as gamers, or in our families or in our work careers or anything like that. I actually want to talk about the age of your characters in your game. And I started thinking about this, and I've worked up something I want to share with you later in this video and see if you agree with me, if you think it's an interesting factor that you might use to color up role playing in your game with your player characters. If it's something they agree would be fun and they want to even try it. So there's two ways this came about. Let me talk about the first one, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get you caught up to what the heck I'm thinking here. Let's see. And let me find it quickly. I thought I had it open already. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Knock Magazine by the Merry Muchmen. I'm sharing it here on the screen. You can see it there. Let's see, is that better? That's a little bit bigger there. I'm not sure if you can make that out too well. Let me zoom through this doc, though. Merry Muchmen produces this zine called Knock, Knock, and they just had a Kickstarter for the fifth one. So I took the opportunity to not only support Knock number 5, but I also bought the hard copies of all the past zines. So you can see it here on the screen where I am. See, this is number 5, and I got 1 through 4 as well. So now I am the happy owner of all of these. Besides great artwork and probably 20 to 30 different articles by a lot of really smart people in gaming and in RPGs that you'll recognize, they have some fun stuff, tables and mini adventures and new beasts and all kinds of ideas that you can pick and choose through and decide what to put in your game. But the artwork is just top notch and a lot of fun. You can see some of the names associated here with this latest edition. Let me see if I can make it bigger, if that helps a little on your screen. Might make it too big. Yeah, I'm going to reduce this one. Okay, so that's what we'll stick with. So I was reading through these Knock magazines, and you can see that, man, the way they use color in here and just fun ideas. Some of it is flux space. Some of it is for other type games, horror gaming or space games, or, maybe, Old West games, whatever. Most of it is sword and sorcery, old D&D style stuff. But it's more fun, and the topics are better than anything I ever ran across in Dragon or in Dungeon. And there were some great articles in there that I really enjoyed and learned a lot from. I wish I still had those magazines. But check out that artwork. That is just really spooky and very cool. So let me zoom on back to my idea about age. And I'll tell you what I was thinking. Let's see, page 41. Where am I? I'm a little too far. Here it is, right here. It is called Ages of Life by Ben Laurence, and you can look Ben Laurence up, Laurence, and find out his background and what he's written and produced in the past. But it's just a one-page article called Ages of Life. When you generate your character, select one of the 3 ages of life: youth, adult, or aging. Each age of life has its benefits. So it's just a little one-pager with this fun graphic of this older, knightly-looking character, gentleman here. And I'm just going to paraphrase the 3 stages that he presents. The first one is youth. We're just speaking of your character in your RPG, and I'm going to assume it's probably Shadowdark. That's mostly what I'm playing these days, but this could probably apply to OSE or whatever you're playing. Youth. You have the vitality and hunger for experience of youth. You are adaptable and learn quickly like a sponge, but you have not done much in life yet. What you know is mainly what skills your class provides you. And of course, your body's growing in the best shape you're ever going to be in athletically, in most cases. Um, so we'll factor that in when I show you the table I came up with that I might use with Shadowdark. The second one is adult, and he says, you had a trade before becoming an adventurer. The skills from your past life may come in handy from time to time. Makes sense. You've now got a career to look back on. You've learned a lot of things. You're going to know a lot more than a 17, 18-year-old kid just starting out, right? And I'm going to assign some levels for these ages so it makes sense for you as well. Then for aging, what I would say is aged or elderly or a senior, he says, you had another life before becoming an adventurer. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, but you bring more to the table than your younger comrades. You know, wisdom, experienced, a seasoned veteran who's seen it all. Think about how that mix would work at your table with your characters. And how do you determine when you roll up new characters what age you're going to start with? So let's see. I'm going to flip over here. There's the knock cover for you, by the way. That's number 5. I urge you guys to check this out from the Merry Muchmen over in France, and they make wonderful, wonderful productions for RPGs. And the second thing, besides this knock article by Ben Laurence, I did a video not long ago because I'd been playing with the idea and talking to my friend Tim Shorts, who's at Gothridge Manor. I'm sure many of you know Tim. He's been very active in the space and for the past 20, 30 years, blogging and involved in a lot of groups and things. So it's pretty well known. And I'm very fortunate to lean on Tim every once in a while and kick ideas around. I just sit and soak it all up. He's a very, very bright guy and a very kind man as well. So Tim and I were talking about duet games or one-on-one games where it's just the GM and the GM is playing with one player. And why would you do that? Well, one is it's a great way to train a newbie. I mean, sometimes that's all you have. Sometimes you just have one other friend, or maybe your spouse or your son or daughter want to play, and you want to play a quick game and teach them the game. It's a great way. It's a great entry point because that one player has all the time and attention they need from the GM to learn the terminology, to learn how to read their character sheet, to learn how to adventure, to learn how to dungeon delve, to learn how to make plans for the evening when you're traveling through the wilderness and make sure you have shelter and light and warmth and those kind of things. So it can be a way to really expedite your skills and your experience as a player. But the second thing was it's also a great way in a duet game to develop a backstory. So what I mean by that is you can actually do a little role playing in the town, let's say, or out on the farm or whatever the setting is, wherever your character is going to be. And you learn the world, you learn the theme and the setting before maybe you join the broader group. And you have some experiences, you have some battles, some combats, you have maybe a scar or two. And along the way, you meet the friendly old priest in the village, or you meet the wild and crazy witch, or you meet a bard or a druid or whatever these characters are in your world. It could just be a blacksmith or a stable hand, right? And these people might become allies or people that you turn to for information and rumors and context for the game when you need information. So you mark those on your character sheet and you start to become alive. Your character starts to live in the world, and you're starting to develop some robust relationships that you can carry forward. You might also develop some rivalries and some opponents that you run into from time to time, or maybe you defeated a big bad guy and he's out looking for you now with his minions, and you carry that backstory into the game with the others. Well, now you've got a real backstory. You didn't just sit there and jot up some story that you bring to the game and tell the GM that, hey, I want to play this. Make sure you work this into the game. I mean, that's a very selfish way to approach it, in a very foolish way in my mind. But it's our job to teach other players to say, hey, look, there's a more fun way to do this that feels more authentic and more real at the gaming table. Duet games are part of that. So I'm telling you all that because the Knock article, and then talking with Tim at Gothridge Manor about backstory and creating authenticity in the game. I never thought of that. How many of you have rolled up a new character in whatever system you're playing and either made a note or denoted what age, your starting age, your character is? Do you know what age your character is for their ancestry or race or what have you? Have you ever thought about that? And like Ben Laurence says in his article, I think it's important because it tells you a lot for that backstory about where this character has been. Are they young and eager and ambitious? Are they, in the prime of life and middle age, and they still want to adventure because they still need things. They still need the money. They still need the reputation, but they also don't want to risk everything. There's that ambiguity in their career where there's a risk reward going on. Or are they aged? Do they have nothing left and nothing to lose anymore? Because if they're an aged character and they've built up a fortune and built a domain, I just have a hard time believing they're going to risk all that because they just love to go down into the darkness and look for, gray slime. That's not believable, even in a fantasy game. So an older person who's out doing that at their stage of life when the body is declining, sometimes mental capabilities are declining, but they also can know a lot. They can have a lot of wisdom that they can pass on to the rest of the party. They have something to give. There's got to be something in it for them, for that aged character, that it makes sense. And so let's talk about ages here. Now that you know where I'm coming from this and where I'm going, I'm going to pull up a little table I created, and I hope you can see that clearly. It says character age at the top, and it's in the Shadowdark form, of course. I design for my zines and other things. I tend to stay with that design style. It says, during character generation, roll for the age of your character. I'm not going to pull it up on screen, but I have the Shadowdark core rules open, and I'm looking at starting level. And for first level characters, right? First level characters start with stats. Choice of ancestry, choice of class, 1 class talent roll. Unless you're human, you start with 2. Hit points, you determine hit points and look at your constitution and all that. Then your background, your choice of alignment, your title, your starting gear, and you're off. But there is nothing about age in there. So again, I'm just proposing an idea. I'm not reworking or suggesting Kelsey Dion change her rules. Okay, so I sometimes have criticism from folks that say, "Oh, the core rules don't say that. It's not written that way." Granted, you are correct. It's not written that way. I'm just talking about a fun idea that might expand the scope of your game and increase the fun at the table. Okay, with other role-playing opportunities. So think of, I'm just pulling one out of my hat here. Think of the hobbits at Erebor, right? Keely and Feely, I believe. I think they were brothers or twins or something. It's been a while since I've read that. But they were much younger dwarves as opposed to Thorin and I can't remember the old grumpy ones. There were a couple of them. But they had kind of a variety of ages represented in that party, and it made for a lot of fun because the younger ones were rash and acted without thinking sometimes, and the older characters had seen it all, and they knew what to they knew to warn them of impending danger or making a mistake that could be disastrous. So here's the table I have. Let me think about how the hell I expand this thing. I think that'll do it right there. That looks like it's getting a little larger. Okay, so you can see the table a little more clearly now. And so it's a die 6 table is what I'm playing with. And you can see the roll, whatever you roll is going to be over in the left-hand column. And then the next, that will denote what starting age you are. And then there's some notes under age description to the right-hand column that tells you how that might affect your character going forward. So if you roll a 1 on a die 6. You are considered an adolescent, and these are all in human ages. That is the baseline, or humans to start with. So your character is going to be between 13 and 19 years. I would let your character pick or talk with your GM, whatever you all decide. And when you roll up your 6 ability scores, your strength, constitution, dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, right? Those 6, your wisdom is going to be reduced by 1 because you're adolescent. You're not at the oldest, you're 19 years old. However, your wisdom's down 1, but your strength or dex, pick one, is going to be a +1 on top of whatever you rolled originally for your 6 ability scores. So that becomes a little more interesting. Body is full of vigor. The mind has a long way to go and a lifetime ahead of it. So if I roll a 2 or 3, that is youth prime, and youth prime is a human ages 20 to 39 years. Okay, and that's the strongest combination of mind and body in your lifetime. There's going to be no effects on your ability scores. So likewise, if you roll a 4 or 5, that's mature prime. You're a human between 40 and 59 years of age, 40 to 59 years. And you're in a period of beginning to decline in mind and body a bit, but not enough to change your scores. And then the last roll is if you roll a 6, your character is going to be elderly. They're going to be 60 years or more for a human. They are the height of wisdom and life experience, but the body is fully in decline. The wisdom or intelligence, choose one, your choice, is going to be a +1. But your constitution or your strength are going to fall off -1. Okay, so these aren't meant to be giant, swingy things that really alter the figure that you rolled up. They're just slight adjustments to the character that you developed. Okay, and in the notes there on the page, I wrote, gosh, I wish I could get this thing. Hang on a sec. I'm going to read it off my document because my document on the side of Restream is easier for me to see because I'm declining in age. I don't know if I've gained any wisdom, but my eyesight is definitely going downhill. So during character generation, roll for the age of your character, then extrapolate the relative age of your resulting roll from the table below and apply any modifiers to your 6 ability scores. And what I mean by extrapolate is this is a base of a human being, right? And you see a little asterisk underneath. Adjust the base human ages accordingly for other races or ancestries, elf, dwarf, goblin, etc. Okay, so if in your Shadowdark game a dwarf lives 400 years and a human lives 80 years, in some cases that would be the eldest age, let's say. Then go backwards from there. Okay, so an adolescent dwarf, might be 50 to 70 or something, however the math breaks down. You know what I'm trying to say, and I'm no math wizard, but I think you follow my logic there. These modifiers will alter how minds and bodies change during the lifetime. So my note on the bottom then says, and each one of these, by the way, I said it's a D6 table. That represents only a 16% chance of either the 1 or a 16% chance of rolling the 6. And those are the only 2 that are going to affect wisdom, strength, dexterity, intelligence, or constitution in one way or another. So how do you use this in your game? Well, GMs can use age to add more character complexity to role-playing situations, to how characters interact with one another, how they act on the journey in an adventure, physically exerting themselves or mentally draining themselves for spells or for other complex thinking. Here are some examples. Older PCs can't travel as far. Maybe they fatigue more quickly, whether they're riding or walking. These are all things you can work out. Depends on how you use travel rules for that, right? While younger PCs are more naive, they act rashly. They succumb to passions without reflection. This might be something you work out with with the folks at your table first, right? Doesn't mean they have to do this in every situation all the time. It's just something for them to think about the flavor of that character, okay, and how they play it with their peers. Most Shadowdark characters, as I think we would all agree, are probably not going to survive long enough to worry too much about their evolving age. I probably wouldn't mess with this if it were a gauntlet. It's just too much, and it's one layer you don't need, and that's not what a gauntlet is about anyway. That's about learning how to play the game and the mechanics and the rules and so forth. And it can be a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. Lastly, there are a few simple physiological and neurological factors that I think can help you develop deeper, more colorful backstory for your characters. And age can also enhance what you do with NPCs at your table. So think about that as well. So that's interesting as well. You meet characters, but they're elderly, or a character who's a young teen. We've all had the street urchin before try to pick our pocket, and they become kind of the mascot of the party, or the hireling. I've certainly done it. I have one now in my Shadowdark game that I haven't touched in a month and a half, maybe longer, because I've been doing these videos and trying to knock out my next zine. If you're not familiar with me, by the way, so I'm Erudite DM. I'm in Houston, Texas, and I like to play lots of different games, and I love talking with you and other game folks who are creating content and so forth, particularly for Shadowdark right now, but I'm not locked in solely to Shadowdark. I also play Black Sword Hack, which is an Elric of Meldabone. Michael Moorcock, the author who wrote those books. It's a world of law and chaos, and is a lot of fun. And I'm about to start playing some Mythic Bastion Land, I believe, with Watcher DM. Watcher DM is going to run the game for us. And a new acquaintance and a new friend from here on YouTube is Runeforged, Will at Runeforged Tabletop Gaming. And I think a lot of you watch him and watch his videos. They're great. He and Watcher DM both. But the three of us are going to play some Mythic Bastion Land, and I'm not sure if we'll record that or not to show you. Might be embarrassing the first time out, so we'll have to see how that comes out. But I wanted to think about age with you, and I wanted to think about how you would handle this at your table, whether you would even use this. And it's okay if in the comments you say, hey, Mike, it's just that's a bunch more BS I don't need. I don't think I'd use it. Some of you are not going to want it. Some of you are going to go, hey, that's a really cool idea. And then you're going to add on to the ideas I've started here. I want to hear them. So please, like this video. If it's your first time here, hopefully I've introduced myself adequately. So please follow and subscribe to the channel, and you'll get an alert every time I have a new video out, and you can check it out. And I really, my thing is I really make a lot of contacts with the people that comment on my videos. So tell me what you think in the comments, ask questions. You can also email me directly at eruditedm@gmail.com. So it's ERUDITEDM, as in Dungeon Master. Who knew? At gmail.com. So send me an email or make comments down below, and I'm usually pretty quick on these when I release the video, and I will follow up. But I look forward to talking again with you very soon about Duet games, and about designing your party, and about agency for your players and agency for your GM, and how you make these decisions together, and how you co-create in your games together. Those are the best groups, and those are a lot of fun. Tell me if you're going to use age and what you make of this. I'd love to hear it. Hey, thanks a lot for joining me. That's under 25 minutes for me, so this is a short one. So I will call it quits here, and eagerly wait to hear from the rest of you and what you have to say. Go back here, and I'm going to close that table. And I think I'm going to put this table up for kicks on my website, so you can go grab it for free. That's eruditedm.com, ERUDITEDM.com, and I will put this up in the next day or two, and you can download it for free and use it and play with it, or make a paper airplane, or whatever you want to do. So tell me all about it. Thanks.